Here we go. All right, welcome. We'll see. I don't know. I wanted to shift. I don't like the camera right in my face. I really hate that. I don't like being way off center either. But anyway, um, we'll see how it goes. We may do the whole show today. We may do part of it. Here we go. Finally, Clemson Sports Talk has come back to Drive Time. Hello, everybody. Lawton Swan back in the saddle. Once again, it is the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk for you each and every afternoon as you make your way around the great state of South Carolina and beyond, listening to us on incredible radio stations like Fox Sports Radio 1400 The Midlands, heard around the world on the iHeart Radio application. Download today. It is free. The website, put the .com on it. Doggone it. That's Clemson Sports Talk.com. 803-450-0086. Again, on a Tuesday edition of the program, Mike Yuva, GamecockCentral.com joins the program. The Clemson Tiger men's basketball team last night getting the JOBDONE, the job done in their season opener, taking on the Winthrop Eagles, much like the Clemson women's team, who also won yesterday against Winthrop in a little doubleheader, if you will. I don't know if you can call it that. The women's team played at 11 a.m. The men's team played at 7 p.m., but the Tigers men's team went at 78-56 to open up the season officially. They played an exhibition game against Newberry. They played a game behind closed doors, one of these double secret probation type ball games that college basketball can play. It's kind of the thing that Dabo Swinney talks about all the time with football, like the ability to play a game against an opponent like Georgia, kind of like a spring game, give you a little kind of like a preseason game. But apparently Clemson played against Ohio State in that one. Nonetheless, as we rock and roll here on the program on a Tuesday afternoon, lots to get to with Clemson and the Clemson Tiger football team. Still, a lot of people celebrating the victory over Notre Dame over the weekend. Look, that was one I can't say I missed it by a mile because I had the score just about right, but I missed which team I thought would win. And anytime I make the predictions like this, I base it off of what I have seen. Like from the start of the year to the finish of the year, I base it all off of what I've seen.
Did you eat a lot of paint chips when you were a kid? Why?
Yeah, well, the prediction might make you think that because I was not in tune with what took place in Death Valley, and it was an impressive victory for Clemson for sure. Again, if you're watching the show today, I decided to kick it up live. I got a message earlier from an unnamed caller who said, Swanee, for whatever reason, I'm having trouble hearing your Dabo Swinney takes, about Tyler.
So you don't ever have to call back.
And I looked at it because remember a couple of weeks ago, I told you we had the issue with the audio from Clemson on the players and coaches when they met with the media. Well, guess what? The unnamed caller was correct. I looked at it. The audio form on that is flipped, which means people listening on the radio were getting a garbled message. But now I fixed it.
Now, I have been a part of failure many times, but there ain't one thing in my life that I've ever failed at, Tyler.
Yeah. So I may have failed at getting that to play correctly at first. Not anymore. Now you can enjoy it. That makes me excited.
Pow!
Indeed, it does. 803-450-0086. All right. So first, if you're watching, also, I'll tell you this. I said a moment ago I didn't like the camera, but I'm so accustomed to the camera being here. But knowing it's here is kind of bothering me a little bit because I feel like it's a one-off because I want to face you, but then again I don't. I saw a couple of podcasts, radio shows, whatever, where they stream it like this, and it's just kind of a camera off to the side. And I thought I'm gonna give that a shot. Now, the unfortunate thing about that is you get a perfect view of the receding hairline and the perfectly taken manicured skin. But anyway, we'll see how things go with that. And again, Clemson with another noon kickoff in Death Valley this weekend. Obviously, it's a game that I think people feel much better about because of the result, 31-23 beating Notre Dame. Especially given the fact that Georgia Tech had recently just knocked off North Carolina. And the Tigers, of course, had they lost to Notre Dame, would be sitting at 4-5, would need 2 wins in the final 3 games of the season to qualify for a bowl game. Well, the conversations today, and we'll hear more from Dabo Swinney as he had a chance to meet with the media, the conversations today kind of revolving around the fact that we're closing in on, for Clemson, if you're a freshman and you've played in a game, singular, you are now officially available for the Georgia Tech game, the North Carolina game, and the South Carolina game. So say backup quarterback or one of the backup quarterbacks, Christopher Vizina, true freshman. You can play in ball games, and then you can also play. You can also take snaps in the postseason. So we're getting closer and closer where the guys have played 1, 2, wherever they are in that magic number of 4 during the regular season, the roster sort of expands and most definitely for the Georgia Tech game and for the North Carolina game where you've got all of those guys on the sidelines. Maybe not all of them may end up traveling depending on who it is to the South Carolina game, but still, it's a different situation that we find ourselves in the world of college football where players can now play, not lose a year of eligibility, and you just have to make sure that you're kind of tracking it and keeping up with it if you are the coaching staff. And I think a lot of people out there, obviously, like this because you can get, much like we were kind of mentioning earlier, where you don't have that preseason for these players, you will have an opportunity for some of the young guys to get out there and to play. If the score, I must say this too, right? If the score allows it. But instead of being 4-5 and trying to figure out where are your 2 wins in the final 3 games, Clemson, I think, played perhaps, I know the first half. I know the first half of that game against Notre Dame, I would say offensively, defensively, felt like the best game we've seen from this team in 2023. But then the second half, some of the turnovers, not being able to put Notre Dame away late, the fumble by Phil Maffa, even though he was a workhorse for Clemson in that ball game. Those are the kind of things that I think I said on the program yesterday where a little bit of 2023 Clemson crept into the conversation, kind of snuck its way onto the field in the day that felt like you were playing a very good game. Cam hanging out with us today says, Swanee, so glad I found this YouTube stream. We used to get your shows back in the day here in Myrtle Beach. Cam, dude, appreciate you, brother. Yeah, we were on in Myrtle Beach for a while. Tried to work it out with those guys. Couldn't get it worked out. We're always online, though, on Fox Sports Radio 1400 that streams on the iHeartRadio app. It's great because if you have an Amazon Echo or a Google Home device at 4 o'clock, man, we've been here. I can't even remember. How many years has it been since we were on in Myrtle Beach? I know this. I just talked to the guys over there not all that long ago, Cam, and they still had a piece of my equipment. And it had been so long since I had been on the air. The guy was like, oh, I don't think we have it. But then the engineer knew about it. So I got to get Tyrese Ingram, who writes for the website, to go over there and grab that box so that we can maybe bring the program to another station in Myrtle Beach, maybe to another market. I still have the ability to do that. But glad you're here, brother. Thank you for being a part of what we do. And we've just kind of been rolling along, right? A couple of national titles in the back pocket, trips to the college football playoff galore. And obviously this year, in the past couple of seasons, has been a bit off of the proverbial mark that Clemson Tiger fans have expected. And I get it. There's been a lot of frustration. And I think that Tyler from Spartanburg voiced that. I think there were some people out there saying, Tyler, you're saying the quiet parts out loud. Then I think there was another portion of the fan base that was like, all right, finally somebody's in Dabo Swinney's $11.5 million ear, letting him know how we feel. And then I think Dabo, had a wonderful retort to it all.
Hey, Tyler, I've listened to enough of you.
And he'd listened to enough of Tyler, and then he was kind of able to put the people who felt the way Tyler feels somewhat in check, and maybe not everybody. But the thing that we got a message from, I think it was Caden, a couple of weeks ago. He texted the program, 803-450-0086 if you want to do that. Caden hit us up, and he said, Dabo Swinney's run at Clemson has provided, some, and this is not verbatim, okay? My family and I, some of the greatest memories of our lives. Some of the greatest memories of our lives. And in that moment, I think there was a portion of people listening to this program who were like, man, you know what? He's right. It's easy to be frustrated when you're 4-4. It's easy to be frustrated when you lost to Florida State because you felt like you didn't have a kicker in that moment. And it does feel like when you look at the way Jonathan Whites has improved, if you were in that exact same spot today or last weekend with the 29-yard kick, I think most of you feel like Whites probably makes that, but that was his first day in pads. But then some of you are like, well, how do you ever get to that point? How do you ever get to the point where Robert Gunn can't hit the, I think it was Steve Spurrier that coined the phrase, our kickers, man, they're terrible. They're like the military, left, right, left. And so how did Robert Gunn get there to the point of where you had to go get Jonathan Whites? And you feel like that's a game that you kind of let go. Then obviously the situation with the fumble at Miami, the play at NC State was not great. Clemson, until Will Shipley got hurt, in my opinion, had not given Phil Maffa the ball enough. And I don't need Phil Maffa to be a 36 carry guy. But I think if these two backs right now, based off of what I've seen, I don't care if you're, traditional, pull-in blocking schemes, whether you got the zone blocking scheme, I don't really care. I've seen enough that I believe that the bulk of the carries need to end up in Phil Maffa's hands. And I'm not saying Maffa needs them all and Shipley needs none. But if there are 36 runs in the ball game, I think Maffa should carry 22 of them. Shipley can have 14. I definitely don't think it should be the other way around. And it's been the other way around for a good portion of the season where Shipley gets the bulk of the carries. And I think some of it has to do with pass protection. We could talk about the field goal situation against Florida State, but you can't miss the glaring scoop and score that takes place just after Phil Maffa has a huge run, still in the ball game, doesn't see the blitzing safety. Or was that a corner? Either way, I think it was a safety. But, in that moment, pass protection, which I think has been a part of Phil's biggest issue, that was a glaring, problem that day for the Tigers in that moment. Then you flash around and look at these different events. 803-450-0086. If you want to call, you can. You want to leave us a message, you can. If you want to text us, dude, we'll get you on the program. We'd love to hear from you. But I think that from the standpoint of what this season could have been and where it is, what you saw on Saturday was what I think everybody thought you were getting out of the gate. I think that's what everybody expected. And it wasn't perfect. But like I said here, when Clemson was 4-4 and there were so many issues everybody wanted to talk about, and Dabo would say something, Coach Sweeney would say something like, we're 3 plays away from being undefeated, or we're 8-1 or whatever. And people are just like, what are we talking about? You're 6 plays away from being 1 and, you're from the exact opposite. And my point was, man, if you go back, and it wasn't always a turnover, it wasn't always a pick six, but just plays in general along the way. Outside of the occasional game where Clemson just put the hammer down in the postseason, I know during the regular season, I mean, there were years where it was pick your number, 42-17, final score. You knew Clemson was going to walk away from people. They were more talented. They were just, I mean, honestly, watch the Jaguars. You'll go, well, that's the reason we won a lot of football games by a lot of points. Those 2 dudes, Trevor and Travis, they are generational. They're generational at the collegiate level, certainly at the high school level, and are putting on quite the display. I'm going to hold off on generational at the NFL level. But for a generation of Jaguar fans, this is the best quarterback running back combo that they've seen. And so if we kind of take all of that, right, and look back at games, you go, well, what if on this play you didn't score a touchdown? Or what if on this play you had fumbled or the ruling? Remember the Justin Ross catch, non-catch that Ohio State always wants to point to? If just something like that went the other way, how much does that change everything? I would venture to guess fairly significantly. But the ball was kind of bouncing Clemson's way. I do believe you make your breaks. It's not to say that this team hasn't earned some breaks, but they definitely have not performed at the level in terms of wins and losses that people expected. But if the team that showed up on Saturday had rolled out week 1 against Duke all the way through this past Saturday, I have very few reservations about believing it would have been a team that right now national radio hosts will be talking about tonight with the release of the college football playoff rankings coming out. Like, I don't know if they would have been undefeated, but I think they would have been in that conversation today. And that's, I think, the thing that you saw Saturday. People were like, that's what I thought we were going to see all year. Kyle, the Honeyman, hanging out with us. He is in the house today. We also got Death Valley Tiger listening in Pennsylvania. Grateful for the program. Not many Clemson people to chat with up there. Oh, buddy. Yeah, I can't imagine. I cannot imagine. And I would guess, I go on the radio up there every once in a while with some guys that cover Penn State, and they talk a little Pitt here and there. Jed. What is Jed's last name? Let me see. It can't be too many Jeds on Pennsylvania radio. Jed Donahue. I go on Jed Donahue's show from time to time. Donahue. That I guess I never thought about his name being Donahue. Remember that old show, Donahue, Phil Donahue? Remember that one back in the day? When you were sick, when you were home sick, man, you watched The Price is Right. You probably had to put on some Phil Donahue because there was not a lot on television for kids back then. Not like today. No Netflix, children. There was none of that. There was nothing on demand. All right, quick break. We'll come back with more right here on the show that shakes the Southland. All right. Woof. Let's see. That was a terrible outro. Well, on the show that shakes the Southland. Ooh. All right, quick break. We'll come back with more right here on the show that shakes the Southland. Ooh. All right, we're going to roll with it, though. So I'm up against the clock. Man. Kyle wants to know if we're going to a bowl game. I don't see how you don't at this point, Kyle. I think you'll definitely win one of the final 3 games. And I think if you play the way you played, again, I'll say it, if you play the way you played against Notre Dame, you'll win all 3 of these games. All right. Hopefully this won't disconnect us. If it does, I'll just come back live tomorrow, but I'll be connected beforehand. But I got to connect to iHeart. And also, if you're watching, if it does stay connected, let me know if it starts to lag more now that I'm connected to iHeart, because I could see that being, I mean, just with my knowledge of networks, I could say, yeah, I would think that might be a little bit of a problem. But man, Death Valley Tiger, you made the trip down for that? Whew. Buddy. That's a trip. Like legit trip, not like, kids used to say, oh, that's a trip. They meant funny. I mean, like, what's the drive, man, for something like that? $16. Oh, okay. He flew. I was going to say, that's a heck of a drive. Put in some time behind the wheel. Damn. Kyle, believe me, I don't know that I got anything. I don't think I got anything, man. Nothing worth giving anybody. All right. But I do appreciate it. I guess y'all stay connected. Let me know if it glitches more. All right. New file. 3 segment 2. So the show actually comes on at 4. So what I'm doing now is I just logged into iHeart. I just uploaded the first segment. So I got 16 minutes. You guys are going to get the backstory here, behind the scenes. So I log in, I upload it, got to put in all kind of codes. They got all kind of security. And then once I do that, I'll be able to kick off the second segment feeling pretty good. I'll be a little rushed when we get to Mike Yuva. Simply because of the timeline and the clock, but yeah, it happens. So Georgia won this weekend. That was a game I said, keep your eye on Georgia and Missouri because it could really shake things up, but I don't know. I don't know what this playoff's going to look like now. It's a lot. A lot going on for sure. All right. I know what I do want to get into next segment, though, so I'm going to pull that up. The honey man's in the house. All right, here we go. Rocking and rolling along with you on a Tuesday afternoon, the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk, 803-450-0086. Call that number. You can leave us a message. If I'm doing the show live, like right now where you're watching, technically you could call it and we could put you through as well. But you can always text it. And my buddy Jamal, who's called in this show for probably a year or so, maybe close to a year. Jamal always leaves us a message. One night Jamal must have been listening to the show late. And I heard my computer start. I told you it won't bother me, and it doesn't. But it was weird because, like, I guess I left the window open. The computer started ringing in, like, the middle of the night. And it's one of those middle of the nights where you're kind of, like, out of it thinking, is that my alarm? What's going on? And then I realized after a few minutes, oh, that's what that was. 803-450-0086. All right, that's the number. So right now, there is legitimate potential that the ACC championship game could very well end up being Florida State, who has already clinched. They have clinched a berth in the ACC championship. That happened this past weekend. And Louisville, Jeff Brom, year one, I think for a lot of people, huge surprise. Now, look, it was going to be a huge surprise if somebody not named Clemson was in the ACC championship. I mean, that was apparent when the media voted. That's apparent when, every talking head on television preseason talked about Garrett Riley, talked about Cade Klubnik. Speaking of which, we did have a chance to hear from Garrett Riley yesterday. We'll play some of that audio for you here on the program. Dabo Swinney today, Cade Klubnik yesterday. We'll have a lot of audio coming here in just a few minutes. But I will say, nobody out there was talking about Louisville. They did a great job in the transfer portal, picked up a ton of pieces. The Jordan kid has been really good for them at running back. I think Brom's scheme has obviously worked. Now they're a confident bunch. Confidence is a funny thing. Think about how you have felt about Clemson this year when they needed to make a play. When the Tigers needed to convert a big third down, or when they needed to punch the ball in the end zone at the 1 yard line. You've had, the opposite of the confidence that you want in those moments. And Clemson fans have become accustomed to you just knew they're going to find a way. They're going to find a way. Well, that's kind of where I think Louisville is right now. I think they feel like they're just going to find a way. And it's not as if, they've done all of their work just against the Atlantic Coast Conference. They beat Notre Dame 33-20. And I know Notre Dame's kind of like an ACC team in the sense of the number of teams they play. By the way, I haven't checked today, but my buddy Lee texted me. On the ACC's website, let's see. No, they fixed it. They had Clemson at 3-4 in conference play after they beat Notre Dame. But obviously, that doesn't count towards your league standings. But look at Louisville and the job they've done. Their only loss was kind of a shocking result, 38-21 on the road at Pitt. Now, they've got 2 conference games remaining. They host Virginia. Okay. That's on Thursday. So Tony Elliott, they already beat North Carolina. Big shock for Tony Elliott there. A good shock, but I guess the national audience to see Virginia win that game. But Louisville will play Virginia this weekend, or excuse me, Thursday. Then they got 9 days off or whatever it is until the following Saturday, where they go on the road to Miami. Then they have their final game out of conference against Kentucky. And I mean, they might win the Atlantic Coast Conference. Edwards says as much. He says Louisville might win the ACC, and I don't disagree. They got one shot, nothing to lose against a Florida State team that, if they win out, will have an incredible amount of pressure on them because of the college football playoff and the opportunity. And really the thing that it's the opportunity cost, right? What happens if we lose, how tight you begin to play. And the Cardinals will have none of that. They can just throw haymakers. And they may very well win it. I don't know. But here's what I found funny about it. So Louisville, and this is why I wanted to go there. I thought about this today. Louisville joined the Atlantic Coast Conference back in 2014. And they have faced Clemson every season since, except for 2020 during that COVID year. And Clemson beat them in 2018. You don't remember the score, do you? Anybody in the chat want to take a guess without looking what the final score was in that game? 2018, Clemson, Louisville. 77-16 was the final score in that game. But I mean, who's counting, right? I mean, just beat them like a drum. But I did think about this today. So Louisville's got a legitimate chance to make it to the ACC championship game. Yet they avoided Clemson because of the new scheduling that came in, that 3-3-5 model that the ACC's implemented for 1 year now that you got the additions of Cal, Stanford, and SMU. But Clemson's 8-0. 8-0 all time against the Cardinals. And if you're a Louisville fan, look, you're excited, man. You're going to potentially have a shot to get to the ACC championship game. That is in your proximity right now. But they also probably feel like this was a year that Clemson may have been a little bit vulnerable for them. Yet the next time these two teams face off, the Tigers will still be undefeated all time against the Cardinals. Quick break. We'll come back. We'll hear some of Dabo Swinney's comments earlier today in Tiger Town. Boom. Segment 2 down. Whew, man. And I'm hot in this hoodie. I don't know. I don't like the cold in the morning, and I can fight through even a little afternoon heat with a hoodie, but sitting up in here right now, I am roasting. All right, that's segment 2. Now, this is the one I don't know how I'm going to handle this for the radio purpose. Okay, so if you didn't know, we're on the radio 4 to 6 o'clock. The show's actually getting ready to start on Fox Sports Radio 1400. But what I've never, one of the reasons I don't always do it live like this is because I like the audio edited, crispy. I like everything good. And sometimes when I play these videos from YouTube, unfortunately, drives me crazy. They have commercials in them. And so that's easy to clean up. And now you say, well, Swanee, your show, you make money off of commercials. Yeah, I understand that. But when I'm trying to just pull some audio and do it live, years ago, you didn't have to worry about it. Everything just played right through. But now, when you go to play audio, say I go to play, here's Dabo Swinney, which I'm going to do in just a second. Next thing you know, they're trying to sell me a Roomba. And then it would be okay if it just did it once. Then he'll get to the next question. And now they're trying to, sell me on some new, Farmer's Choice dog food or something. I'm like, I just want to play this audio. So if I just record the show and I don't do it like this, where you guys are watching me, it's not a problem. I no ill effects. None. I guess I could be a YouTube premium subscriber or whatever. They got that paid version. But I mean, as little audio as I do from them, I don't see that being something that I need, that's necessary, if you will. Yeah, here we go. So Cam wants to know. He's going to get the iHeartRadio app. So it's Fox Sports Radio 1400, Cam. From 4 to 6 p.m. Oh, it's down there at the bottom, too, scrolling right now. And then we also podcast it. So the show should be going live in 3 minutes on iHeart. Live on YouTube. Must be a young guy. Not young, but younger than me. I don't do much on YouTube. All right, let me cue up Dabo real quick. We'll go. Yeah. All right, there we go. So he starts talking. We'll go with that. And let's get that up. All right. I think we're good. All right, here we go. Clemson Sports Talk, the show that shakes the Southland, 803-450-0086, 803-450-0086. A lot of people hanging out with us live on the Facebook, YouTube, Twitter feed. I could do it like this, I'll be honest. But for the people that have been hanging out the whole time, not the people listening on the radio, you guys are good. Everything's normal for you. But the other people watching the show, or anybody watching it back, and maybe I could go in and slice it up. I am going to check that, see if I can just cut out all the stuff in the middle. And if I can, then I will definitely continue to go at it like this for those of you that want to watch the show live. But Dabo Swinney met with the media earlier today, and he talked about facing off against the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, who will come to town noon kickoff for Clemson, just like last week. And Swinney, got the fans fired up with his little midweek rant, talking to, I guess it was on Monday technically, talking to Tyler from Spartanburg.
But all this bull crap you're thinking, and all these narratives you read, listen, man, you can have your opinion all you want, and you can apply for the job, and good luck to you.
And they said, the player said, look, man, we're inside out, not outside in. We're not focused on what everybody else is saying. But you couldn't help but feel like that conversation got some of the players fired up, got Dabo Swinney, got the fans fired up. And Swinney talked about how he felt like, man, what was he going to have to do to get people to come out for the Georgia Tech game. But anyway, noon kickoff, Death Valley. Here's Dabo Swinney talking about the Yellow Jackets. All right, see, you're gonna get the fixed version because I had that audio too low. And I don't like the lead in. Man, what was he gonna have to do to get people to come out for the Georgia Tech game? But anyway, it'll be a military appreciation ball game. Clemson will be rocking the all purple jerseys. Here's Dabo Swinney talking about that leading up to the matchup with the Yellow Jackets this weekend.
Team that is a bunch of big future steps. And,
All right, going to stop Dabo there for just a second because I did see some people in the chat saying, no, man, we can't, for whatever reason, they can't hear it. And this was the thing, this happened when I tried to have Tim Beret on the show, but I thought I had it all squared away. But what am I doing wrong? Why is it not playing? I know everybody on the radio. I know you heard all of what Dabo had to say there, but I'm not sure why the people hanging out with us here in the I'm going to try to solve it during the break, I guess. That's the best bet. But yeah, Military Appreciation Day. The purple uniforms that Clemson wears, the tradition. My great grandfather went to Clemson back in like 1912-ish. My grandfather graduated with Banks McFadden about 1939. The military school, the history of that, the number of Clemson guys that went and fought in World War II and many other wars that took place, not necessarily in our lifetime per se, in terms of I would guess the broad scope of numbers of Clemson graduates. But I think, and we can certainly ask Tim Bray on Thursday. Some of you may already know this, but I think, did Clemson have, I believe this is right, the second most soldiers, I think, during World War II, I want to say, outside of Army. Is that right? I could be wrong. There's something along that line. But anyway, yeah, so it's really a cool day, and the tradition and the history of the military. I mean, when I was in Johnstone in the 90s, we still had the old gun racks from the military days, and Clemson does a jam-up job celebrating our military, that's for sure. And we absolutely appreciate them. All right, we're going to hit a break. We'll come back with more on the show that shakes the Southland. All right, that's frustrating right there, and I'm going to tell you, I could be wrong. So you heard that. So you can hear that. You heard me play that back. Like, you hear this.
I've known him for a long, long time.
So you hear Dabo there. You didn't hear it when I was playing it the first time. All right, so what would cause that? Yeah, so I can hear that when I read. Yeah, I definitely heard it. All right, so fellas, ladies, gentlemen, give me a second. Because Mike Yuva, I got to get Mike on soon, but it doesn't make sense. All right, so Sweeney's playing. Let me go back to Sweeney. I don't even understand. Oh, yes, you will. Okay, so where is that? So if the audio's there, okay, hold on. Give me a second. I know you're like, what do you mean, Swanee? You're in control here. It's not like you guys. So it's the audio setting. Change audio device for, this is Chrome. Chrome browser, set specific audio device. Ugh, that does not look like a fun read. Settings, sound. More. All right, well, let's see if y'all hear this dial tone. You hear this call. No, I don't think. Yeah, that's not going to work. Okay, because that's the settings for that. And YouTube doesn't have a setting. Oh, maybe it does. Hold on, settings. You can't hear the videos I'm playing. $4.10. Oh, let me pull up the chat. Maybe somebody in here knows how to do it. Yeah. Here. Oh, come on, thing. What bounces when YouTube plays? All right, when I play, you using this thing. All right, if I can't figure this out in the next couple of seconds, I'm just gonna. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Load settings, system tray, system settings, and options. B1 out. Microphone. I see that. I'm afraid to mess anything up too. Like it's so complicated. Oh, I thought we had it fixed. B1, B2, B1, B2. So that is a real downer, honestly. Did I wrap that segment up? Yeah. Already dropped it in. Any other? Mm. Mm. And I know I'm gonna call Boogie. I'm gonna be like Boogie. He's gonna say, "You gotta do this, Swanee." Yeah, I know I'm dumb. Why? Why? This can't be that hard, man. It cannot be. Out. Speakers. Cannot hear. But why? I don't know. I don't know. Chrome currently use. All right. All right. Well, I guess I'm gonna pull it down for the day. Actually, let me See if y'all hear when I call myself. I don't even know if this will work, but let's see if y'all hear that ring. If you hear that ring, I'm at a loss. Guess you don't. Okay, so you don't hear the ring. All right. Well, I don't know, guys. I'll fix it for tomorrow. We'll just come back tomorrow. It was fun while it lasted. Fun while it lasted. So I don't really know what happened or why it won't play that audio. I'll have to figure it out. Yeah, you can hear me. You can hear me, but you can't hear the Now, you know what I could do? You know what I could hold up. Pump the brakes. If I did this, I bet you'll hear this. Let's try this way. And it might get glitchy, but we'll see what happens. I bet if I do this, you'll hear it. Pull Dabo down a little bit. You'll probably hear this, right?
Yeah, he was able to go in green yesterday, so he's trending back. So we unless we have some type of setback or something, we do expect him to get back. His head and all that's good. It's just been more a little bit just making sure his neck and everything is where it needs to be. But he looked good last night, so we'll see where he is today. Big day today and tomorrow. Be in pads both days and see how he responds to that.
Others close who had to miss last week. Anyone else that's on the verge of getting back in who had to miss last week?
We got so many guys out. You give me a name.
Phillips.
He's out.
All right, so theoretically, okay. Justin confirmed. Yeah. So hypothetically, I guess I could do it like this next time. Oh, that is a pain. Ugh. Why though? Do you like that better? Being able to see him? I mean, if you like that better, I guess technically I can do it like that. I'll take your opinion on it. If you like that better, I can definitely do that from now on. I don't love it, but I mean, I'm not against it. You like it better? Wow. It could be a little tougher for me to edit it for the radio because, again, I don't want to hear on the radio these other guys asking the questions. No offense to the other guys. Like, I don't need to hear Pete and Anthony right there say, ask you about the guys who are out. Right? Because on the radio, I want to say that. And Dabo Swinney said this about the players. Okay. Ty, I will take, duly noted. I will take into account what Ty said there. Just don't know how great it'll be. That's the only problem I see. All right. Anyway, we'll try it. You know what I'll do right here? I'm going to practice it. How about that? I will practice it this time. We'll do a segment with it. I'll see how it goes. Not loving it, but we'll try it. Here we go. Ty, you ready? This is for iHeart. Here we go. Clemson Sports Talk on Twitter at Clemson Sports Lawton Swan. Earlier I said we had some issues with the audio for the people that were watching the live feed. And I may have figured out a bit of a workaround. I don't know that I necessarily love it. As I mentioned to the people watching live, but I figure if it works, we can roll with it. We'll at least try it. So Dabo Swinney earlier today, I mentioned coming out of the gates that, you're getting into the point of the year where these freshmen, they can play 4 games. They can play 4 games, and they can even play a bowl game. And some guys have played a game here or there. And Dabo Swinney earlier today was asked about the freshmen getting opportunities in some of the upcoming ball games.
Let some guys lose freshman-wise, redshirt-wise as the season winds down. Who are some guys we might see that maybe haven't played a lot yet?
Yeah,
Special teams.
well, it's kind of like being able to, is it baseball? Don't they expand their roster like in September? They get to pop the roster out, and we get to do the same thing. And then we've got guys like this guy's got 3 games left. This guy's got 2 games left because now the postseason doesn't count anymore. So thank God we can, you don't have to worry about that, which I think is a great thing for this world of, college football where you're going to have guys that aren't going to be with you. There's going to be kids leave playoff teams. That's going to happen. So to be able to have more guys available at the end of the year and not have to worry about losing a year with them is a real blessing. So we've got guys, like Billings, like Kylan Webb, like Noble Johnson. I mean, Jay Haynes, we ever get him back? I mean, we were going to play him, but now he's on that redshirt path because he hadn't played enough games. So Jarvis, I mean, there's a bunch of those type of guys. Marcus Dixon, Trey, as we talked about, that Strozier, that all of a sudden now, you've got an expanded roster. Well, now you got more bodies, and it might just be special teams. It just might be maybe you're a little thin over here, and this guy's been playing. He's playing, you can, like a Barnes. All of a sudden, he's having to play. He's playing a ton of snaps. Well, maybe we could take him off a special team or two, and that be a Robert Billings or Webb or somebody like that who now has. These are really good players that, this is game 10. It's not like they're just got here, and they've been around a little bit, and they've practiced all year, and so it just gives you a little bit more, personnel to be able to have available, especially here at home. Really the rest of the way, because we don't have a travel, we have a travel limit of 80 when we go on the road, but with South Carolina, there is no travel limit since it's a non-conference game. So the rest of the way, we pretty much have just a bigger pool of players, which is nice because sometimes you're like, you got a guy, but you don't want to waste a year. So the way it's worked out, we've got several guys that fit that category that we've been trying to hold. Steph Island Green would be another one that's got time now. Ojebwe, we're redshirting Ojebwe. He's got, he's ready to roll. So just a few more options. Big Zach Owens. Ian unfortunately has been sick. In fact, he just got out of the hospital. He's really sick, but he's doing better now. But Zach's a guy that, all of a sudden could hop in there, maybe get you a little depth and a little spark there too. So
that's Dabo Swinney again talking about this Clemson Tiger team and the opportunity that is out there in front of them for the young guys who could come in and play. And I'm glad you mentioned that about the travel restrictions not existing for the South Carolina game. So they'll be able to load up the guys there and take them down. Again, 803-450-0086, 803-450-0086, text line and phone line. Again, be a part of the program anytime, any place, and, of course, anywhere. And finally, the conversations around the world of college football exist about this Michigan scandal and the sign stealing and all of that. And Dabo Swinney was actually asked to kind of chime in on that situation. But more importantly, he kind of gives an update on what's going to happen, with that kind of stuff as it pertains to the bowl season. So here's some more from Dabo Swinney earlier today.
Do it. You can't do that. I mean, it's really same opinion anybody else has. It's against the rules. You can't do it. So it's pretty simple. I mean, if you can look over there and steal somebody's signal during the game, hey, here comes the corner blitz. Well, that's on them, right? I mean, you got to. That's why everybody goes to a lot of extremes in games to try to have multiple signals, those things like that. That's just part of the game. But you can't, all that other stuff, that's not, you can't do that. It's not acceptable. It's against the rules.
Would you foresee college now going the way of the NFL with the electronic communication with the?
Yeah, that's going to happen. That's going to happen in the postseason this year. I mean, we've already had to make decisions, and Dooley brought it to me like how many helmets we're going to buy or whatever for this before we get to the postseason. The teams will have the option, except the playoff teams. The four playoff teams are not going to be able to do it. But if you're one of the teams that gets to postseason that's not in the Final Four, you're going to have the opportunity to have helmet to helmet or coach to player communication. And there's really no rules right now for the postseason. I think they're wanting to just kind of try it out. It's just whoever, if you go to a bowl game, both teams have to agree. Okay, everybody can have one, or it's just the quarterback and maybe the linebacker or safety or something like that.
And I like the idea. I'm going to be honest with you, just kind of thinking through it all. I think this is the right steps for college football. I really do. The situation in Michigan, I don't think they should be in the playoffs. I wish the committee would keep them out. If it's found out that this actually happened, I mean, I think blatant cheating. Like if you found out today that their quarterback, I said this maybe a week or so ago. If you found out today that their quarterback was Tom Brady, would you go, oh, but they should be in the playoffs? Of course not. You go, that's ridiculous. How are they playing Tom Brady? Well, if they were doing this, then yeah, I think so. All right, hour 2, Mike Yuva joins the program. Stay with us. All right, there you go, Ty. I mean, it probably wasn't perfect. Scale of 1 to 10, was that terrible? I mean, we did have to hear the questions from people.
This year.
Let me see. Where is that question asked?
College now going the way with the.
Yeah, that's going to happen. That's the rules. Yeah.
It was great. So Ty liked hour 2. Mike Yuva joins the program. Stay with. All right. Well, if they were doing this, then yeah, I think so. All right. Quick break. Mike Yuva will join the program in hour number 2 right here on the show that shakes the Southland. Sorry, I had to shorten. I had to fix the length on that segment because of cut out that question. All right. So Ty liked it. Kyle said it sounds good to him. It comes across perfect for me. It's a little bit more of a headache, but you know what? For you guys, I'm all in. Won't you come support us on our website too? $1, 3 months. After that, $63.17 gets you 1 year of coverage.
So you could continue to peek over the fence at the best radio show in the nation.
Now, do y'all hear that? Could you hear that or no? You could hear, but I mean, you just heard me play that audio bite too? Of that guy saying the best radio show in the nation? Cleveland man? Or you did not? Because I need y'all to hear those too. Okay, good. I need y'all to be able to hear those. I don't know why you can't hear YouTube though. It's so weird. Exit. Whew, I gotta hustle. Hold on. Mike, where are you? Gotta call him. Hey, man. Hey, we're live on the not the radio, but on the stream right now. But I'm gonna check and see if they can hear you before we actually cue you up. Okay. All right. I'm gonna just double check with the audience and see. I don't normally stream the show, but then I started today, and then I've had my audio on YouTube doesn't work. Can y'all hear Mike? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear Mike. That'll make me feel better if you can at least hear Mike. Mike, say something. Nope, they can't hear Mike. Okay, so obviously there's something I got some setting wrong. So I'll tell you what, Barbara, Ty, Kyle, everybody hanging out. I'm gonna drop it. I'm gonna fix the setting with Mike, or I'll fix the setting later. And so they can't hear you. Why? Hold on, Mike. Let me check one more thing. I got not long, folks. Give me 1 second. Let me. I do not have time to debate this with Mike. Not your fault, Mike. They can't hear you. Yeah. Why though? Why? Okay. Let me go here. So voice. Here. Your line. I know this word. There's something wrong. Something wrong. Audio. Output. All right, Mike, say something now.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2.
Y'all can hear him that time. They definitely can hear you that time. I do think we got that fixed. You heard Mike that time, right? Yeah, we're rolling with it. They can hear you. I know they can. I trust my meters.
Perfect.
I trust my meters, Mike. That's what I always say. if you can't trust the meters, then all right, no good. File new. Yep, they heard you that time. All right, so I did figure that out. Okay. 11-7-23 _ segment. This is segment 5 with Mike Yuva. All right, Control V. All right, this is a little Gamecock talk for you, so hang loose. All right, Mike, I'm going to put you on hold for just a second. I'll bring you right back in.
Sounds good.
All right. It is hour number 2. That's drive time right here on the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk. Lawton Swan hanging out with you, and our buddy Mike Yuva is in the house, and I'm excited because our listeners who are watching the show, I guess you'd say the watchers, the viewers over on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter can hear Mike now that I did a little work. Mike, buddy, welcome in. How are you, my man?
I'm doing well. I know you're kind of like The Rock in the old WWE days. The millions and millions watching. You got everyone watching and listening to you today.
Look, here's the thing, right? And you know this from doing your show. You build a big audience when you do this. And you get a big following, and it grows and grows and grows. That's what I love about it. But honestly, my schedule is so tight, so many times, and I used to stream the show live all the time. And it is like there's a little bit of a hassle in the fact that I could not get the audio from YouTube to play. Now, because of that, I may have come up with a better result where they're actually getting to view some of those videos, which some people said they like. But when you're live, man, you're live, and you're an old news guy, so you know when you're live, you just got to roll with it.
I don't know if you remember this. One of my favorite streaming moments with you that I did on your show, I was still working at Watch Fox, and sometimes during those days where we were kind of short staffed, I'd have to fill in for the 5 o'clock show, and you'd be doing your show a little bit later,
right?
And I'd be hopping on around then, and I just remember I got upset. And I still had my microphone on, and we had someone young working in the director's booth, didn't shut my mic off, and they're talking about God knows what with the next segment, and you're hearing me in the back talk about Gamecock football because the microphone was still on. Yeah, I mean, it's live. You got to roll with the punches.
Yeah, well, and even when it's not live, you got to roll with the punches. I remember one time up there, I was doing the show, and I think I can't remember if it was, I don't remember if it was Matt or if it was Corey Miller, somebody forgot to hit record on the thing. We did the whole segment, and then come back and they're like, can you come in and re-record that whole thing? So then we have to do basically that whole show over again. And you're trying to act genuine, right? But you've already given away your best material.
I signed a non-disclosure when I left Watchbox about 2 years ago. So I can't really say if that happened on multiple occasions or not.
Yeah.
But if you could see my eye, I'm kind of winking. Allegedly, I'm winking. So, take that for what it's worth.
All right. So let me ask you this, man. Just taking a look at the South Carolina Gamecocks this past weekend. They were in a fight with Jacksonville State, and I thought it would be. And you might could make the argument if Jacksonville State's quarterback doesn't throw a dart, instead lobs the ball maybe on that wheel route, South Carolina's back might have been against the wall in the waning moments of that ball game. What was the tenor of the fan base and certainly the tenor of the conversation coming out of that tight matchup against the other set of Gamecocks for South Carolina football fans?
Well, I think just from a fan base standpoint, I understand that it's one of those games where you're not going to necessarily want to go out and celebrate it. But at the end of the day, it's a win. And I have made the joke. I mean, I don't care if South Carolina was playing the Columbia Knights youth football team. At this point, they needed to find a way to win. You're on a 4-game losing streak. You hadn't been able to force a turnover since the second quarter of the Tennessee game, which was all the way back on September 30th. There were certain things that this team needed to do to be able to build some confidence. And despite, and I'm sure we'll talk about Clemson in a little bit, despite the fact that you have to win out, when you look at the schedule, at least the way that it's starting with those 4 games, you play Jacksonville State, then you play Vanderbilt. These are 2 games that you want to be able to build that confidence on because it gets tougher. You have to play a Kentucky team, which, they're not world beaters. Clemson certainly has gone through their ups and downs, but when you look at those 2 teams in comparison to the Vandy's and the Jacksonville States of the world, this is when you need to gain that confidence if you want to even think and sniff any aspirations of making the bowl game.
No, it's a great point. And again, South Carolina and Vanderbilt kicking off at noon on Saturday. And for the Gamecocks, obviously, I found it a little bit strange that Shane Beamer asked you how Clemson did with Notre Dame as he was kind of leaving his press conference. Give me some insight. Not that he's overly concerned or peeking over the fence even at the Tigers, but how did that portion of the day come about?
As to why he asked that question?
Yeah. So so if we're sitting in Death Valley, right, every time the Jacksonville State, South Carolina score comes on the board, there is a clamor amongst the Tiger faithful. I wouldn't expect that would have been happening in, Williams-Brice. If Clemson was beating Notre Dame, it was probably more of an avoidance for Gamecock fans looking at it. What kind of prompted Shane Beamer to ask the question about Clemson and Notre Dame? Do you know?
Well, I'll pivot it because during that time period, I'm doing my post-game show on the field. So this is the first I'm hearing of it. But where I'll pivot from that is, I mean, obviously there's been a lot going on in the upstate this past week, right?
Good point.
So on Thursday, when Shane Beamer did his call-in show, I think he shared, and I could be making up the name, but I think he made a joke right off the top because Todd Ellis made a joke about what took place on Monday up in Clemson. And Shane shared that a lot of his buddies were texting him that week saying that they were going to pretend to be, Walter from wherever.
Right.
Say that they're, yeah. So I think he was just a little interested. Plus, I think the other thing too is, naturally, we've talked about this on your show and give Clemson a lot of credit for doing what I think a lot of people outside of being in that building thought they could do, which is beat Notre Dame. I mean, we talked about it last week, Swanee, that there's a possibility that Clemson and USC could be going into that game both 5-6. Well, certainly being able to get the win for Clemson the other day, that changes things a little bit. Not saying that Shane's thinking like that, but I can tell you that a lot of us, at least from the media and from a fan standpoint, reading the message boards, they were thinking about that, at least heading into this past weekend.
Again, Mike, you was on Twitter at Mike_UVA, covers the South Carolina Gamecocks for GamecockCentral.com, part of the On 3 network. And, you know, the injury bug is something that South Carolina has been dealing with for sure. But as you get towards the back end of the schedule, we just had Dabo Swinney talking a little bit earlier as he met with the media today. You know, they've got 4 games that these young guys can play. Some of them have played in a game here or a game there. And if you qualify for a bowl game, you get another game that doesn't count. So for South Carolina, with 3 games on the docket, needing to win all 3, I mean, to just qualify for a bowl, right, Mike? There's no reason that you wouldn't play available freshmen that you feel like can help you.
I agree, and I'm not sure if Dabo said that or not, or if you're saying that. At least as of right now, last year's exception, to my knowledge, they haven't announced it yet. That was an exception for last year to be able to get that 5th game of eligibility.
No, bowl
Hopefully
games, matter of fact, they expanded. All postseason games count. So you can, so technically, if you were playing for a team that made a conference championship and a bowl game, your freshman can play 7 games this year.
So they have made that permanent
yes,
now.
Yes.
All right,
and they've expanded it to 7.
Okay.
If you make the championship game, yeah.
Well, I think we were all assuming that was going to happen. So again, that's news to me, but that's good news, and it's not shocking news. Certainly with
right.
how everything has took place between the transfer portal, with guys not playing in bowl games, which is obviously a story for another day. And that's obviously the focus when you think about rules like that, right? You're not thinking necessarily the teams towards the top playing for a conference championship, playing for a college football playoff, and eventually playing for a national championship. But if you make those rules, it's going to impact everybody. So
right.
I think, look, heading into a situation like where we are right now, there's 3 games to go in the regular season. Shane talked about it last week a little bit. There's guys on this team that either they've been thrust into action at one point or another earlier in the year, or especially during that Furman game, a lot of freshmen had an opportunity to play in that game. So I bring that up because now, with 3 games to go, you can take advantage of throwing some of those guys in there. So, you know, one guy in particular that a lot of people in this state have heard, just because of the buzz and the fact that he's a local guy in the sense that he's from South Carolina, is quarterback Lenore Sellers. He has a Boston accent for you. And the reason I bring that up is because with Spencer Rattler, and I say very likely, I think it's pretty much 99%, but I'll never rule anything out. The likelihood of him coming back next year is slim to none. Lenore is a guy that could be in line next to be the next quarterback at South Carolina. So I think, you know, there's been this buzz from this fan base going back to the spring game of what this young man did. I believe he's thrown the football maybe 3 times this year, and he has 2 touchdown passes, including a 50-yard touchdown. So he's a young man who has a cannon for an arm. He is a dual threat quarterback, and he's a local guy. And when you combine all those things up, Gamecock fans are going to want to see a guy like that get in there right away. So I think that is one player in particular to pay close attention to. I think especially during that Clemson game, we could see him used a good bit. Now, I wouldn't be shocked to see him used a little bit this week. And the reason I say that, because you mentioned injuries, Swanee, Carryon Joyner, he's going to be out this week. And DK, while he has had some issues playing running back, whether it be trying to get things running, it's not all on him. Some of it's the offensive line. But he hasn't been able to give them the spark the same way that transfer running back Mario Anderson has. However, Carryon has been phenomenal when it comes down to finding the end zone when they're inside the 10-yard line. So I bring that up because at the beginning of the season, there was a lot of people wondering, can we see this young guy out there, Sellers? And the reason I bring that up is because if they use him this weekend in some of those goal line situations, perhaps, if USC is able to get some momentum and they feel confident about it, they can continue to do it throughout the rest of the year. And that's something Clemson fans might want to keep in mind as we get ready for that game in the next couple of weeks.
What about from the standpoint of you know, other injuries? I mean, is there anybody on the defensive side of the ball, offensive side of the ball that you haven't brought up that maybe there's a young guy that could potentially pick up some snaps as we get a little closer, where maybe South Carolina's had somebody that's playing through, a nagging injury, and they say, okay, well, we can, maybe rest somebody up a little bit?
Well, as far as injuries this week go, Trey Jones, he's an offensive lineman. He's going to be out. I mentioned Joyner, how he's going to be out this weekend.
Yeah.
And I also believe there's one more. I just want to make sure I'm not forgetting any. There's also one more. Trey Knox is questionable, the tight end. So I say that because the offensive line, that's been musical chairs all year. However, they've got a little bit healthier over the last week or so with Case and Henry, who's a right tackle. He went out week 1 against North Carolina, and that was kind of the beginning of the dominoes if you actually want to go all the way back to the spring game when Jalen Nichols, the starting left tackle, went down. But I bring that up because of all the injuries on the offensive line, they've actually have started 2 true freshmen at times. Now, one of those true freshmen didn't start this past weekend, but they're still starting a true freshman on the offensive line. I think from a defensive back standpoint, I think there's some young guys in there that could work their way into playing more. I mean, they've really struggled to get off the field defensively, Swanee. I mean, they were fortunate to be able to create 4 turnovers this past weekend.
Yeah.
But still, Marcellus Dial, one of their starting corners, he played 90 snaps. He played all 90 snaps this past weekend. So I bring that up because, and I asked the other starting corner today, O'Donnell Fortune, about that. At this point of the year, everyone's banged up to some degree. And when you think about the number of snaps this defense has faced, upper 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, NFL teams don't even go up against that many snaps each week. At some point, you need to be able to have younger guys ready to go. And like you said, at this point of the year, why not put someone out there? So I wouldn't be shocked if we see some of these younger guys. I could name some of them, but it honestly feels like we haven't heard much about them.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's just from a lack of development in the sense of wanting to get them to where they need to be at this point, but we really haven't heard about too many defensive backs other than Judge Collier, who got thrown right into the mix week 1 when Nick Eamon-Worry went down.
Again, on Twitter at Mike_UVA. So, Mike, the Georgia Bulldogs held off, I guess, their toughest challenge thus far in conference play in Missouri this past weekend. But they'll take on Mississippi State. Now, it's a East-West matchup in the league, so it doesn't necessarily affect things in the Eastern Division. But do you think Ole Miss can figure out, can Lane Kiffin head into the Classic City and come away with a W?
I'll never write him off. I mean, he'll either go in there and find a way to pull it off, or I could see them losing by 2 scores. I think either way, like if you told me like the results one way or the other, nothing would surprise me. I think the thing that you look for out of any Lane Kiffin coach team, especially during his tenure at Ole Miss, is just being able to protect the football. You feel like in a game like this, in a lot of the games we've seen from Lane in games like this, they're usually high scoring. And as cliche and as coach talk as it sounds, if they protect the football, if they're able to just get a stop or two when they need to, some timely stops, I think they can beat anybody because they've proven it in the past. The problem is sometimes they're in these situations where it's like a track meet, it's back and forth, and then they shoot themselves in the foot, and that one mistake cost them. So I think, again, they're capable of doing anything against anyone, but at the same time, too, they've also proven many, many times before that they'll shoot themselves in the foot, and they could be in a game where they win, and then it could quickly turn into a game where they lose by 2 scores.
I know we got a lot of football left, and we've only got 3 minutes remaining with you. The new college football playoff rankings will come out later on tonight. And I guess my question is, and again, a lot of football left to be played, but, at this point, Mike, who would be your top 4 teams?
I think last week I said I stuck with Georgia being first, and then I had Ohio State, Michigan, Florida State. I'll still go with that right now.
Yeah.
I know Ohio State will likely be the top team, and they've had some impressive wins, but I'm going to go with Georgia simply because that win last week, to me, shows that they're capable of being able to continue to play at a high level despite some of these injuries piling up. And if they can get healthy towards the back end of the season, look out. I mean, because they're proving that they can do it with some young guys. They're ready to go. Next guy up mentality.
Yeah, final question on that front. Like, who's in the worst spot, I guess you would say? Is it the loser of the Pac-12 matchup, or maybe the loser of the SEC matchup this year? And if you assume it's Alabama and Georgia, and say Alabama were to win, or if you had the scenario where Oregon beats Stanford, like, who would you like to get in that scenario?
Naturally, and this is without looking at the schedules, because some of the things that I'm about to say right now could be a little off, because I don't look at the Pac-12 schedule as closely as I look at the SEC schedule.
Right.
But it could be one of those Pac-12 teams. And the reason I say that is when you look at the strength of schedule sometimes, and certainly if Georgia is number 1 or number 2, depending on when they play Alabama, if this is assuming Georgia makes it to the SEC championship and Alabama makes it to the SEC championship, that helps Bama. That helps Bama because they're playing one of the top teams in the country. So I think because of that dynamic, it could certainly hurt one of those Pac-12 teams. But I also think, too, we have to take in consideration how good a team is towards the end of the season. I mean, there's Oregon and Washington. They've been doing some incredible things all season long. And I would love to see one of those teams in the college football playoff. But I think, too, if Alabama is able to go out there and beat a Georgia team who, again, could be ranked number 1, number 2, if both these teams meet in the SEC championship, it's going to be hard for the committee to leave that Bama team out, especially after what they've been able to do. Big win this past weekend. Bama is getting hot at the right time. And I think the committee has proven in years past that they take that into consideration heavily.
Again, he's on Twitter at Mike_UVA. Mike, we'll talk to you next week, buddy.
All right, Swanee. Appreciate it.
Perfect, Mike. Take care, brother. I'll talk to you.
Yep, you too.
All right,
yes, sir.
Later. All right, that was Mike. All right, Mike Yuba. All right, I got to trim that segment up just a hair. Oof, not much. Let's see. Get back to 20 minutes. Yeah, I don't know why that audio doesn't play from YouTube. That bugs me a little bit. I wonder if it does it now, though. Didn't even think about trying. Now we have it open. All right. Well, Honeyman can hear YouTube. All right. I don't know if you hear that or not, but if not, you're going to get to see it in a second. All right. Because we'll just hear from Brad Brownell. Mike, we'll talk to you next week, buddy.
All right, Swanee. Appreciate it.
Quick break. We'll come back. We'll hear from Brad Brownell following Clemson's victory over Winthrop last night. Oh, boy. This is going to be tight, people. Time is it 54? Oh, yeah. This is not great. I don't like it when it's this tight. You get nervous. Nervous. That's going to be close. Come on. Be 20 minutes long. Yes. Peeling back the curtain, people. Make this break. We're good. Make this break. We're good. You still couldn't hear him? Okay. Awesome. I don't know why. Terrible. Not me. Just the whole thing. All right. Hold on. All right. Got to get this uploaded, and then we'll get rolling. I'll say this. We there was a show back in the day that I used to listen to, and during the break of the show, he had stuff like this where it was just him talking with the people, other people in the chat. And I honestly never minded it, listening to it, but then when you're doing it, it feels a little weird. Segment 5, I gotta get loaded up. We got 4 minutes on that. And we should be good. Once I get segment 5 loaded, man, we're golden. Matter of fact, I might can just risk it and get started here. Rocking and rolling along with you on a Tuesday afternoon, the show that shakes the Southland, Clemson Sports Talk. Lots of people hanging out with us live as we were streaming the program. Mike Yuba was on with us earlier. Still trying to work out some of the ins and the outs of it all, but we'll get there. We'll get there. And again, I appreciate everybody being a part of the program. Last night, the Clemson Tiger men's basketball team faced off with Winthrop, and we had a chance to hear from Brad Brownell. So here's some of that conversation for you today on the show that shakes the Southland.
First thing, just thank our students for coming out. I thought we had a great turnout tonight. Good to be back in Littlejohn. It was a lot of fun. I think our guys were a little amped up for sure. I could tell really all day. We do morning shoot around. They were all excited. And before the game, you didn't need to say much to them. And it probably showed a little bit in how we played in the first half. Thought we were a little erratic on offense. I do think defensively we were very good, especially to start, and pretty good most of the day defensively. We really wanted to limit their threes, and I thought we did a nice job there. Certainly the fouls got us a little bit of trouble, and we got to work on that. But defensive rebounding was good. Turned them over a little bit. I thought we played well defensively, and as the game wore on, we got better offensively. We didn't have any film, so it was we weren't sure how they were going to guard us. They were probably a little more aggressive on some things than we anticipated and practiced, and so we had to make some adjustments at halftime, and our older team was able to do that. So we played much better. Again, 21 assisted baskets, which is really good. 13 made threes, and so very pleased with the first game. And again, last thing I think is I thought our bench really gave us a good jolt. I thought Alex's threes and Jack's threes were big. Certainly our inside guys played well. RJ was good off the bench. Dylan's defense was good. And then Shefflin played very well. PJ played well inside. So our inside guys were good, and I thought our bench was really good.
Again, that's Brad Brownell talking about this Clemson Tiger men's basketball team following last night's victory over the Winthrop Eagles. Again, 803-450-0086. Text line, phone line, if you want to be a part of the program. PJ Hall led the way with 20 points for Clemson on 8 of 15 shooting. He was 2 for 6 from the three-point arc. You also had Ian Shiflin chipping in with 16 on 5 of 8 shooting. And I'll give you the stat I really love in a minute, but Shiflin also had 7 rebounds to lead the team. And then RJ Godfrey had 12 on 5 of 10 shooting. He was 1 of 1 from beyond the arc. 11 of 12, though, from the free throw line. 91, nearly 92% from the free throw line. It's been a bugaboo for Clemson Tiger basketball for eons. It has been much better in recent years, and a good start. 78-56, the final score for Clemson. 4 guys in double figures. Again, Chase Hunter, point guard, was one of those as well. And you didn't really have Joe Girard, do all that much, honestly, in this first game. 26 minutes, just 3 points on 1 of 5 shooting. He was 1 of 4 from downtown. I don't know if he was one of the guys that was sort of amped up, if you will, the way Brad Brownell was talking about. But the reality is Alex Hemingway was back and really, I thought, played very well, especially early on, hit I can't remember if it was 1 or 2 threes pretty quickly, and I was like, okay, it looks like Alex is coming back confident and gunning quick. But this is a team that has high expectations this year after the way things played out last season. The fact that this is a team that was left out of the NCAA tournament. I know they lost a key piece in Hunter Tyson. They utilized the portal to bring in some talented players. I don't know at this point if it's fair to say this is a more talented team than they had a year ago. But what I do feel like is that the majority of guys who got minutes last night can all contribute. That was eerily similar to what you had in Tiger Town a year ago. And it's never been one of the deeper programs in college basketball, if you will. But it's an opportunity here, or at least a chance, I guess you would say, as you head into, they've got their matchup coming up. They're about to get involved in the 2023, man, is it the Asheville Shootout? What's this thing called? Let me see what this thing's called. I don't remember the name. Anyway, they'll take on UAB on Friday, 9:30 on ESPN3. And then potentially they could match up against a former Atlantic Coast Conference foe in Maryland on the 12th, which would be Sunday. And then they've got several games at home before the ACC SEC Challenge, where they will go to Alabama and play against the Crimson Tide in Tuscaloosa. That will be probably a little bit of a measuring stick for this team fairly early on. But, hey, nonetheless, I mean, at this point, it's a team that's got some veteran leadership, guys that can shoot from the perimeter, even your big guys. Even Shefflin and PJ Hall. I would say that's probably been, in my life, watching basketball, maybe the biggest shift is the fact that so many players now can shoot from the perimeter. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's a positive because the game overseas, as you could tell by the number of players that come out of Europe that play a brand of basketball that is perimeter oriented, is much greater than the guys that come and play the game in America. But now you're starting to see some of the American guys have adapted as well. Ron points out, he says, Gerard did lead the team with assists. Ron, I appreciate you, man, chiming in and hitting us up with that. All right, we'll hit a quick break. We'll come back with more right here on a Tuesday afternoon. It's Clemson Sports Talk. We tried to go live today. Couldn't get the audio from YouTube to work like I wanted, but I think we made it work. Nonetheless, we'll hit a break. We'll come back with more right after this. All right, so look, this Clemson audio. This is Brad right now, right?
So we played much.
One channel. It's a pain. So I got to fix that real quick. That's probably about a 6 up compression. Ooh, it was even more. It might be a 12. Even more. A lot. All right. Copy. All right. Had to fix that. Sorry.
Again, 21 assists.
I like doing it live and I don't. I know. It's crazy. I like doing it live and I don't. All at once. These two things can coexist. I like hanging out with you. Don't like when the audio is not right and have to fix it. All right. Seven. All right. Clemson Sports Talk on a Tuesday afternoon, the show that shakes the Southland, 803-450-0086. You could call that number anytime, any place, and, of course, anywhere, and be a part of the program, just like our buddy Jamal did following Clemson's victory over Notre Dame. Jamal, what's up, man?
Hey, Sonny, how about them Tigers, man? As
Yeah.
football would say, Papow. What do you think of this game, and what do you expect from the Tigers the rest of the season? Papow.
Jamal with a little papow, if you will.
Papow!
I know the artist formerly known as Double O will appreciate that.
Papow!
I tell you what, they played well, man. I said earlier, Jamal, I think it was the most complete game probably from start to finish that we've seen this year. I know the first half for sure. The Florida State game was close. I mean, that's the one thing that Clemson doesn't, and you don't get credit for close. You don't get credit for close losses and all that stuff, right? I mean, we know that. But I will say this. You don't get credit for close losses. See what I mean? See that phone call came in? That's why. And that's probably somebody calling to be a part of the show, but how do I keep it from ringing? Don't ring. Just pop up. Don't play sound. Don't play a sound. There's got to be a way to make it where it doesn't play a sound. Because that would be great because I could see it, but I don't want it to play music because then it cuts into me. Play a sound. Yeah, I got to figure that out. All right, anyway, let's go back. You don't get game was close. I mean, that's the one thing that Clemson Florida State game was close. I mean, that's the one thing that Clemson doesn't get credit for, and you shouldn't get credit for a close ball game, right? Like I don't believe that just because you played a tight ball game, oh man, move you up in the polls. I think what you saw there was that this team can compete with one of the top 4 teams in the country. I think that was accentuated this weekend with the way they played against Notre Dame. And I think that for everybody who's kind of fallen into this realm of, man, how far off is Clemson from competing for the college football playoff? You know, Tim Bray pointed it out last season, and I know it was a year ago, and they won 11 games. Last season, Clemson would have qualified for the college football playoff. People forget that. In the expanded playoff. And this year, where they are now, they certainly wouldn't. But the great thing is, I don't think that they are that far off. Where I think this gets very difficult for everybody is winning those games in the playoff. Like, I could see a day and age where we're looking at like a 30 for 30. And my buddy HB was talking about this weekend. He said, man, do you think there'll be a 30 for 30 on Clemson football at any point, this run that they went on? And I think it could be, because if you frame it like this, in the era of Nick Saban's dominance in the world of college football, a small school from the upstate of South Carolina put together a 6-year run in the 4-team college football playoff that was, you know, that nobody could match, uncomparable, whatever. And then you focus on what Clemson did during that run, the 29-game winning streak, the 15-0, becoming the first 15-0. Like, I could see that. when you shift this thing to the expanded playoff, when you shift it to the larger playoff, in my opinion, it becomes incredibly difficult to just win the thing. It's going to be easier to get in it and tougher to win it. And that's not a Clemson exclusive, right? Like, that's everybody. And so I think for the rest of the season, going back to Jamal's take, I think what you saw in that game against Notre Dame is the fact that this team has the right to begin to believe that things are going to bounce their way. Think about it. The pitch, I don't even know. I thought about asking Dabo Swinney about that play during his Sunday teleconference. Where it was, the kind of ran a fake handoff, but it wasn't, and then ran the pitch and the fumble. I mean, earlier this season, that's a play that gets scooped and scored. Like, that's the kind of luck Clemson's had all year. That ball somehow gets scooped and scored, and then you're like, really? Now they're going for 2 to tie the ball game, and all we had to do was hand it off. All you had to do was hand it off. Same result. I think they have the right to believe that things are going to go their way now. And I don't think the players necessarily have felt that way this year, and rightfully so, because every opportunity, every time they've done something, for whatever reason, I mean, it's just gone the opposite way that you would have expected. And for so many years, the ball, I think I said this in segment 1, the ball bounced Clemson's way. And now, late game moment, need a big play, got to punch the ball in from the 1-yard line.
Holy crap, I am freaking out.
And that's just not the fans. I think the players have a little of that I'm freaking out inside of them right now. So the win, in my opinion, Jamal, takes kind of the burden off of their back, allows them to be a little bit more confident in and of themselves, and it gives them the right to believe. The right to believe. And I think for a while they were kind of second guessing themselves, much like you were. They would never openly admit it, man. They would never openly admit it, and I don't blame them. All right, one more phone call real quick. Caller, welcome in. What's up?
Hey, Lawton Swan, this is Tim, man. I thought I'd call today.
Hey, Tim.
Good to be on your show, man. You do a good job. Keep doing the good work, you Tiger.
I'm trying.
I tell you what, nobody gave Clemson a chance to even come close to beating Notre Dame, even some of the Clemson fans there. But guess what? Things happen sometimes that we can't explain. But I tell you one thing, when Dabo's back up against the wall, he's at his best.
Yeah.
Sure, he had some losses here and there, but I've always supported him. Oh, he's a man of faith, a man loves God. And that's more important to him than win all these football games. You know that, of course. Every Clemson fan knows that. But I think this victory here was a big one. The defense, the offense did what they had to do and took care of business, brother. So keep doing the good work, man. I appreciate you. Appreciate all the Clemson fans who were there at the stadium. It was amazing. That place was packed. And support Dabo. And I think they can win the rest of the game. Tell me what you think, and take care. Go Tigers. Yeah.
Tim, man, I agree. I mean, I think they've got a chance to win the rest of their games. That includes that matchup with North Carolina in a couple of weeks, and then coming down to Columbia and facing the Gamecocks. All right, quick break. We'll put a bow on the Tuesday edition. Stay with us. All right. I gotta figure out how not to get the phone ring. I need to like take notes. What time is it? 5:15? Not bad. The earliest I've ever finished is 5:08. If you're wondering. And if you're saying, what are you talking about? Well, because right now, Fox, on FoxSportsRadio1400.com is our show. I'm assuming you'll be able to hear it. Who knows? At this point, I have no idea what you'll hear, what you won't hear. There's our segment with Mike, if you could hear that. No. Final segment coming up. And I got to get the podcast up. I apologize. I don't know why I didn't do that yesterday. Terrible. Terrible person, Swanee. You're a terrible person. You're lazy. You're terrible. All right, here we go. Final segment on a Tuesday afternoon, the show that shakes the Southland. Thank you to Jamal. Thank you to Tim. Our good buddy Mike Yuva being a part of the program today. All the people in the chat. We did it live. And we haven't done it live here a lot. It's tough for me to do it live on Mondays, if I'm being honest. You know, I got another job. If you want to support us, not just the radio show, definitely go to the sponsors that you hear on the radio and support them. That's number one. They are a huge part of the reason that we've got the longest uninterrupted show running in Columbia right now, over a decade here on the air at Fox Sports Radio 1400. And then additionally, I would encourage you to consider supporting us on our website. Will signed up today. Got a text message from Will. He said, man, I apologize. It's taking me so long to get signed up. He signed up. He went all in, $63.17. And, of course, the Gamecocks love it when you tell them that that's what it costs for a year subscription to the website.
So you can continue to peek over the fence at the best radio show in the nation.
I remember when people would just pump their gas up to 63.17 and just stop and take a picture of it back in the day. So that number resonates, I think, as well as any number in the history of Clemson football. And when you think about that 2003 season, right, and the way it all played out, it was a stretch run. And Dabo Swinney talked about this the other day. Clemson got beat at Wake Forest 45-17. 45-17. Tommy Bowden, the head coach. Nobody gives Clemson a chance, not a snowball's chance in a microwave, that they're going to beat number 3 Florida State at home. Yet Charlie Whitehurst, Derek Hamilton, 26-10, the final score. That was the game where, you may recall, Radio was in attendance and ran down the hill because the movie Radio had recently come out. Actually, it was in the box that night. I think it was the Defender box, and Radio was in there with us. Got a picture with him. That was really cool. Then the next week, Clemson beat Duke at home 40-7. Kind of got the ball rolling. They go down to Williams-Brice Stadium. Carolina is playing defense. Safeties, as Tommy Bowden will certainly tell us when we get into Clemson and South Carolina week and we talk to him about it. You know, they're playing wide on the hashes, and Clemson just killed them. Just before I sat down, Gamecocks were hitting the turnstile. It was 21-0, and you just knew this ball game is over. Clemson followed that up by making a bowl game. They went over to, what was it, the Chick-fil-A Bowl then, I guess, or Peach Bowl. It was the Peach Bowl then. Poor bowl game. I can't even keep up with it. And they faced number 6 Tennessee, Phil Fulmer. Not many people gave Clemson a chance. The Tigers come away with a 27-14 victory in that ball game. And again, it never propelled you to the levels where you've been recently under Dabo Swinney, because 5 years later, halfway through the season, Bowden would be fired, Swinney would be in. But that was one of those moments, that little run. And what was Clemson's record? Let's see, going into that game, let's see, they were 3-1, 3-2, 4-2, 4-3, 4-3, 4-4, 4-5 going into that game. Kind of like, where they, 5-4. There. The artist formerly known as Double O will appreciate that I'm doing math on the radio.
Pow!
But let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 5-4 going into that Florida State game. They win it 6-4, 7-4, 8-4, 9-4, I believe. They finished that year. So a heck of a run to round out the season. But this year kind of had some similarities, I guess, to that in some respects, kind of where you're sitting now. The victory over Notre Dame, what that could do to propel this team forward the rest of the way. The confidence that you certainly had going from losing at Wake Forest back in 2003, 45-17, to beating the number 3 team in the country and then winning out. That's kind of how the whole thing has shifted for me, even looking at Clemson's games the rest of the way, on their schedule now. Prior to their performance against Notre Dame, let's say Clemson gets beat by Notre Dame, the exact score as what happened, kind of similar to what I predicted. 4-5. You're incredibly frustrated. You're not in the right headspace with Georgia Tech coming into town. What do you look like that game? How are the mistakes amplified? You're certainly not going to beat North Carolina in that scenario, I don't think. And venturing down to Columbia to face South Carolina all of a sudden feels like a completely different, a completely, different task at hand. Now it feels a lot different. And a big part of that's the success you had against Notre Dame. So anyway, we'll see if the worm has indeed turned. All right, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll run it live too at 4:00. Until then, as always, y'all take care now. And go Tigers. All right, everybody watching live, thank you. Man, weird day. I'll try to figure out the thing with YouTube. I'd prefer not to play the video. I can't remember who said they like to play the video, like me to play it, but Rambo. More like Bandbo. Bye, Rambo. Rambo. Bye, Rambo. Fumblerooski. Oh, thanks for stopping by, Tanya. Appreciate you. Oh, yeah, this city, sharp. Always look sharp. Man, I got to go back and watch that game, Cam. I don't remember it. It was a Fumblerooski or Kyle Browning. Kyle Browning sort of hiked down low. I do remember that, 28, the original CJ Spiller number. He had it before CJ. Kyle Browning squatted down behind the line of scrimmage. I remember that. I just don't remember how the play unfolded. Oh, you know what? What the heck? While we're here. Have a good night, Kyle. Let's take a look at it together. Why don't we? I got time. I have a lot of time, but I got time. Rambo got bamboed.
About just 2 months ago, Clemson was 5-4, and
That play
the
late,
sideline, the coaches. Wilson comes up to make the tackle. Cedric Johnson with an outstanding block, number 65.
Both defensive coordinators, John Chavis and John Lovett, both being named John today, are having headaches. Both these offenses are pouring it to them.
Jasmine out. Dwayne Coleman comes back in a tailback. Clemson with this no-huddle offense. They went to the no-huddle in the third game, and folks, since then they've averaged 443 yards a ball game. Whitehurst, quarterback draw. They think they see something on the left side, and he will get just minimal yardage out of it as Cedric Johnson was out there blocking for him.
See, one thing about the no-huddle offense you talk about, they're at the line of scrimmage plenty of time. They can make so many adjustments at the line of scrimmage. And you in defense, now you got to show your cards there a little bit. Now, John Chavis will show his cards and then try to make a double move. But this Clemson offense,
The defense is knocked away in time. Charlie, 5 solo tackles, 3 breaks.
Now you can't.
Clemson, right?
I hear this.
In the pass throw.
Chavis is blind. We're going to fool with you now. We're going to move all these guys around here. Now you figure out who to block at the snap of the ball. They all know where they're going on the snap of the ball. And they got free on Charlie Whitehurst and down him. That's a good move by John Chavis.
Whitehurst is fortunate he did not get a knee or an ankle injured on that play. You could see the tackle when he got hit.
Here we go.
And he was a little bit off balance and awkward. Win. Okay, so we got every football game return.
He blind to this.
So 8-yard line.
Here it comes.
Antoine Stewart, you can see him coming.
Oh, no, look at it.
24, cheering and talking to
I don't remember how it played out.
Back saying, hey, we need to stop here. Let's force them into a field goal. And on the Clemson side of the field, they're saying, hey, we got to put it in the end zone for a touch.
The Scots, man.
Look at this alignment.
Oh, it was.
They left it on the ground, and it's a Ruski at the 5.
Was it a Fumblerooski?
The Fumblerooski, Kyle Browning took it on the stack lineup.
Didn't see that coming, did you there, John Chavis?
As we
I would
take
have
a look
County.
at this from the Chick-fil-A
John Chavis and
they
Kevin
just
Smith. Both
confused
those.
Tennessee, puts the ball
What
down.
a play.
Kyle Browning in the end zone, and that's one you just say, hey, they got us.
Kyle Browning, he's so small.
When you saw
All right,
the quarterback,
we're out
Charlie
of here
Whitehurst.
with that. We're out of here. Appreciate y'all. Thanks. I'll try to come back. I'll try to do it again tomorrow. Hopefully, I'll have the sound worked out. But the video's not bad. I mean, it's not bad. I could, you know what I could do, though? It might be fun. Do some watch-alongs with some of these old games. That might be fun. All right. Anyway, take care.